Humphrey and Fluffy and the Mysteries of Wandle Wood. Millie Muntjac goes to the party. Humphrey and Fluffy are two small white dogs who live in a very old cottage in Wandle Wood. Fluffy and Humphrey being quite cute. Lots of dogs walk through Wandle Wood with their humans, and they enjoy it very much, but only a few very special dogs know that the wood is magic. When Humphrey and Fluffy's mummy goes to work, something very unusual happens at the old cottage. At the bottom of the human-sized door, a smaller door opens that Humphrey and Fluffy's mummy has never noticed, and oddly enough is exactly the right size for a small dog to fit through comfortably. One day when Mummy was at the shop, Fluffy ventured out of the small dog-sized door at the bottom of the larger human-sized door. Fluffy was usually a very good boy and was very eager to do everything that Mummy asked, but when Fluffy spotted another animal, he would become so overwhelmed with excitement that he would completely forget that he was a good boy. On this particular day, Fluffy spotted what he thought was another dog standing near the tall pine tree just outside. Yap, yap, woof, woof, barked Fluffy, and out he dashed. Fluffy, come back, that's not a dog, shouted Humphrey. What did I do to deserve this nitwit as my companion? He sighed, following Fluffy through the garden and out into the wood. The small dogs followed the scent of the mysterious animal until they reached the old beech tree. I don't know where the dog is, said Fluffy, but the scent seems to end here. Humphrey and Fluffy sat down to rest, and after a few minutes a familiar-looking animal peeked out from behind the tree. Yap, 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 barked Fluffy. Fluffy, it's Millie Muntjac, said Humphrey. You must be quiet or you'll frighten her. Muntjac deer are from China, Fluffy, said Humphrey. They're only in Wandle Wood because some of Millie's ancestors escaped from a park 100 years ago, and now there are lots of them in England. Millie Muntjac started crying. Whatever is the matter? Asked Fluffy. Ollie Owl has invited me to his birthday party tonight, and I would like to go, but I'm too frightened, replied Millie. Oh dear, said Fluffy. Why are you frightened? Well, there will be loud music and everybody else will be chatting and dancing. I'm shy and they might not like me if I don't join in, said Millie. Millie, you must always be yourself, said Fluffy. No, Fluffy, said Humphrey. We must ask Ollie Owl for advice, for he is very old and wise. He will know what to do. Millie and the small dogs found Ollie Owl perched in his usual tree. Humphrey explains that Millie was worried about his party.
Millie, you must be brave and try to join in with the other animals. Everyone will be a little bit shy at first.
Millie seemed unconvinced, but she reminded herself that Ollie Owl was very wise, and so he must be right about everything. The following afternoon, Humphrey and Fluffy set off through Wandle Wood towards the grand hall where the party was being held. When Humphrey and Fluffy arrived at the party, Millie was nowhere to be seen. After a good few minutes searching, Fluffy spotted Millie outside talking to Harry Hedgehog.
"I'm not brave enough,"
said Millie.
"I found Harry curled up in a ball out here. He's frightened too, so we have been chatting."
"Millie," said Fluffy, "it isn't brave to be like everyone else. True bravery is being yourself, whatever people might think. And besides, if you hadn't been yourself, you wouldn't have met Harry Hedgehog. We only meet real friends when we aren't pretending to be different to how we really are." "Oh yes," said Humphrey. "That is exactly what I was going to say. Good boy, Fluffy." Millie and Harry did pluck up the courage to go to the party for a little while, and they enjoyed watching the other animals dancing. But the thing they both enjoyed most was making a new friend. Back at home, the small dogs reflected on their day. "Fluffy," said Humphrey, "you gave Millie some very good advice today. I very much agreed and would have said the same thing if you hadn't said it first." "Yes, Humphrey, you really are a clever dog," said Fluffy, and Fluffy meant it because he really was a very kind dog and loved Humphrey very much. The small dogs were exhausted after their busy day. "Good night, Fluffy," said Humphrey. "Good night, Humphrey," said Fluffy, and they both fell fast asleep.